Hello. Hey. Hi, social media family. Being whatever racist, but then not necessarily being whatsoever walks of life, factions of society, lifestyle preferences. I mean, after all, there is a reason and a purpose for that. My person haven't mentioned it last as I had done or did. You know, mark my words, there is, and you can quote me on that if you like. Meaning because I myself personally, I don't know about anybody else, and I cannot or could not possibly speak for anybody else. Or whatever I have said, be I speaking correct, proper standard English grammar, being of the American dialect of some or such qualities and quantities or not, or be I speaking the King's English or street slang for that matter. But then, nevertheless, the bottom line is, I say, and I'll state for the record. I mean, you got to recognize and realize for that last mention, that is for what I had mentioned before the or that not the very last, but something I had mentioned formerly, previously, or prior to then, and giving my own views and opinions, and as it is regarding making reference to that being which is for the same question in the former previous prior mentioned being something I had mentioned earlier for this here being of the basic intro as an introduction before I were to complete it, being a somersault, and then from there speak upon any subject matter of an issue at hand, be it controversy or not, be it any plague upon any given society or for a country or nation, or be it of an issue that has yet to be resolved if it has not been already, for that is same question in the former previous or prior mention of a possible and potential controversial plague upon any given society or country or nation or not, representing one within the global community for this post 911 era of a new millennium of the apocalyptic damage, and where the doomsday clock is now, as of present moment time, at a couple few minutes to midnight, compared on to how falling previously or prior to then, it was at a quarter midnight for these very biblically prophetic times. No doomsday clock being military arsenals of what remaining superpowers that be, and not that I mean to lose my train of thought or confuse anybody, but when I had said last for the basic intro, so I say before I get to speaking upon any subject matter, be I were to speak upon one or a couple, three or four more for that matter, then last but not least, give the conclusion of a social media broadcast. When I had said that, in the very beginning, whereas first of all, I said, hello, hey, hi, social media family, being a whatsoever racist, but then not necessarily being a whatever walks of life, fashions of societal lifestyle preferences. I mean, being because you have got to recognize and realize people, places, and things. Being at the wrong place at the wrong time in the wrong crowd can or could possibly have some or such rather severe or serious consequences. And, I'm not for that. Been there, done that. Don't want to do it again. Ain't time too soon enough again. Hopefully, if and when, or better yet to be said, if at all, it will be a long time in coming before that were to ever happen to me or that of my person or the person, myself or my same self for any time in the future. God forbid, then because trouble is easy to get into, but then they're less hard to get out of. Be you with a crew or team of your homies or not, or be you with family members and friends of your family or not, Be you have attorneys or lawyers or not, I mean, I don't look for trouble, but if trouble comes my way, I'm going to try to think of it with my intentions to deal with it, and hopefully in a much more mature kind of way, that will prove to become a be in my better interest for my general welfare and for all, or for both parties or whatever parties are involved, because life is too short to permit oneself to become a casualty of this here modern day present war against ignorance, insanity, and or impoliteness or stupidity, sickness, and or rudeness. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, there are a couple or a few. I say, not to mean to contradict myself, but there are a couple of few connotations to the word ignorant. You could be ignorant and not know something, but yet can or could possibly get to learn about it being of some of such to your benefit, to your advantage, and to everybody else's for that matter, that would prove to become a be in whatever parties involved, better interest or for general welfare of one and all. Or you could be ignorant because you just want to be ignorant. You just want to be obviously ignorant, regardless of whatever severe or serious consequences being of which can or could possibly come with that territory. And I don't have to go there today, believe it or not, Or hopefully not, even if I were to once again relapse, as in fall off the bandwagon of recovery for sobriety and go back to possibly living my life in a bottle, then this is not what you think, though it could, contain the contents of an alcoholic that is an intoxicating alcoholic beverage. This is ginger brew, some kind of soda. Or I could live my life. Yes, like I said, I could either live my life in a bottle or I could live my life in a pipe again, but I choose not to do that as a present given moment in time, believe it or not, regardless of whether or not that my person have or had relapsed most recently. Well, I did, kind of, but I got back on the bandwagon of recovery. Please, no, not very, not very recently or very, very recently. Also, I say, regardless of whether or not that my person I'm speaking correct, proper standard English grammar being of the American dialect of some such qualities and quantities or not. If I'm speaking the King's English or Swiss, bottom line is the last time that my person had relapse was, I would say, and regardless of whether or not that my person have lately or most recently been having some such lurking notions to go back to live my life in the bottle or live my life in a pipe. The last time that my person had relapsed, believe it or not, was about a couple or a few calendar months ago. You take it for what you want. Trust me, as God is my witness, I tell you no lie. I tell you not a lie, Regardless of whether or not my speech could betray me, only being because, though I speak fairly well English grammar, the American dialect, but I don't speak, that is altogether that much more of the proper standard English grammar, the American dialect as I could, possibly sometime in the future, if not that I myself being that in my person, I'm doing so at the present. You hear what I'm saying? And that's what I mean to say. If my speech could possibly betray me, not if my speech could possibly betray me as I could possibly be lying. No, I'm not. I tell you the truth. As God is my witness, the fact of the matter, Whereas the last time I relapsed was about a few calendar months ago. Whereas before then, I have had at least a couple of few or 2 or 3 years of sobriety up under my belt for recovery before I relapsed and then had to get back upon the bandwagon of recovery for this sobriety. Okay? I'm sorry if some of you may think that I'm talking over your head or maybe I'm talking too fast. Maybe I should slow down. I'm not. Whereas some of you could think that I could possibly contradict myself, but I'm not. I say, this is just the way I'm talking. I'm talking as is my usual way of talking. This way that this is just the way that I talk. Okay. Okay. All right. You can take it for what you want, Okay. Don't get me wrong. Not that I am some kind of a rogue scholar, whereas I could say something like, what's the saying? It was on the tip of my tongue, but I forgot. See what I mean? I'm not a rogue scholar of someone or such a one, or one of the really prolific or profound intellectuals, The farthest that I have gone in school for school higher education is to have, well, from having gotten my GED certificate, then which is an equivalent to a high school diploma, to having literally actually enrolled in a school of higher education, be it a college or university, and had gotten some learning out of some as such, but didn't complete the course of education, not being because I didn't want it to, being because I did, but rather being because something was always coming up, a life crisis, or whereas I had become subjected to experiencing a double standard of racial profiling, and then had gotten removed from all of my educational classes, being courses of study, whereas I should not have to pay one red cent for thousands of dollars of past old school debt that I had gotten stuck with. And speaking upon those matters, you can take it for what you want, believe it or not, but as God's my witness, that is the fact of the matter. And whereas I had the possible potential to become anything or anybody I want. When I say anything, I'm talking about anything along the line of thought, in the same sense word, to become anybody that could possibly become or be a pillar of society on a positive note of interest for whatever country or nation that is representing a part of the global community. That's just how good I was, or how great I ever said when it comes to that my scholastic or academic standards. As a matter of fact, let me share some of such information with you all. Like, say, when it comes to an educational field of study or profession, whereas at one time or another, I myself, yes, me, I myself been that in my person. I had studied educational courses to become or be a future paralegal, and then from there, I would like to have or love, however say you can hear the paralegal in my voice, paralegal, the former or ex paralegal student in my voice, but then I have yet to get back with that educational program, and then from there become an attorney or lawyer, and then a judge, or I could possibly has had chosen to study to become a doctor or shrink. That's just how good or great my scholastic or academic potential was. And when I was studying to become or be a paralegal, I was making like A's, B's, and C's. I don't think I ever made a D unless I'm mistaken. It would be very seldom I would make a D, like once in a blue moon. If if I had or did make a D in times past when I was studying educational courses to become a paralegal, that's just how good or great I was. So in other words, I'm no fool. Right? Looks can be deceiving, though at times I be sounding and seem like a fool. During some or such my past or previous social media broadcasts, depending on what my day could have been like at that given moment in time, depending on how much ignorant